Can you make a fake number file video? Every video I make is a fake number file video. But seriously, I would love to be on number file. Anybody know a guy? I got material. Are we going to get a video about how the mechanism does carries? I went into a lot of detail about how the stepped drum works, but I didn't mention how it handles carries from one digit to the next. It's actually a bit complicated because the addition and the subtraction modes need to handle carries differently. And I talked about how when you pop the doink, it shifts to the drum to subtract instead of adding. But it also has to switch the entire carrying system to behave appropriately for subtraction rather than addition. This How the Curta Works video describes it in detail using models of the original parts. I decided it was a bit more complicated than I wanted to get into. Of all the devices on this channel, which do you use the most often? I don't really use any of them very often. I have used the denominator counters a few times, like playing board games with my kids and stuff, but other than that, I don't think I use them. I think probably the Gerber variable scale is maybe one of the most useful because what it does is hard to do using electronics, but I don't actually do it. As a professional academic, do you have thoughts of starting some museum-esque collection with all of them? I have thought about this, but I don't really consider myself much of a true collector. Like, I like having these things, but I like having them so that I can kind of play around with them and get to know how they work and even, show them off to other people. But I don't really get a lot out of sort of stockpiling them in my house. I'm content to love them for a while and then pass them along. I also hate administrative nonsense, so starting and running my own museum sounds kind of like a nightmare to me. I love all the math gizmos. My TI-36X Pro has been my go-to since college. I carry it with me in my briefcase always. Do you carry the Curta with you or something else? I don't carry the Curta with me. I actually don't carry any kind of little calculator with me. I don't even own a fancy graphing calculator. To me, the handheld calculator is a bit of a legacy technology. Like in my real ordinary life, my smartphone built-in calculator app gets me by. If I want to do something a little bit fancier, I often use the free Desmos graphing calculator app, which is pretty good. If I want to do something really serious for serious mathematics, I use a serious computer. If I am struck with an adding machine, is that battery or assault? I would never use an adding machine to attack someone, but if you come at me, I got a good counter. Heyo! I'm probably the Curta hater in the sense that I don't see the point of it in a world where slide rules exist. Cool in a fancy watch with way too many complications way, though. I appreciate the hot take. I do see how it's kind of like a fancy watch, very mechanically beautiful, but is it actually useful for anything? Well, back in the day, I think it was pretty useful. Slide rules can only get you approximations, so there really was a place for a thing like the Curta. Anonymous Hyena says, making Curta-themed furry art. That all right? That's amazing. Since I was young, I've always been fascinated by the computations some people were able to do from the top of their heads. I wanted to know what an actual mathematician had to say about mental calculations and how to improve them. Hugs from Brazil and happy Curtsmas, dollar, dollar, dollar. Oh, those are Brazil flags. Actually, I'm pretty bad at mental calculations. This is why nobody ever thought I was good at math when I was a kid, and I think this is actually fairly common among career mathematicians. For accountants and engineers, that kind of thing might be helpful, but for mathematicians in general, it's not so much. I always thought that I was kind of bad at math, but once I got to college, I realized that math wasn't exactly what I thought it was, and what it is, I actually am kind of good at. I've always been fascinated at how most mechanical calculating devices have at most one spark of an idea and then years of refinement, where the Curta is just an entirely different thing that didn't evolve from other devices, nor did anything really evolve from it. This is interesting to consider, like the long arc of the history of computing technology is full of maverick devices. First there was the abacus, now we have the smartphone, but the smartphone did not arise by incremental improvements on the abacus. The abacus, the slide rule, the tranche, the pinwheel calculator, the dial adders, the binary digital computer, These things were not variations on earlier designs, but they were individually totally new inventions. And it's tempting to put the Curta in the same category. It looks nothing like what came before, and it didn't evolve into anything that came after. This view would paint Kurt as a wild, eccentric genius who came out of nowhere, created something brilliant, and then quickly vanished. But Kurt wasn't really an eccentric outsider at all. He grew up in the industry. And he doesn't talk about it in his interviews, but there were other Curta-like designs in the air at the time. This is the Petersson calculator from the 1870s, which is basically the same idea as a Curta, a single-step drum with digits arranged cylindrically around it. My buddy Stephen Freeborn sent me this patent in 1900 for another cylindrical stepped drum machine by Christian Hamann. And here's another one called the Gauss calculator. So rather than some kind of alien artifact that descended from a mountaintop, I would say that Kurt's design really is an evolution on the arithmometer type machines that his dad was building. Not to take anything away from Kurt's achievement, even if other people had similar ideas, Kurt actually got the thing made in significant numbers, which is more than you can say for anybody else. I don't know what that thing is, but it looks stupid. You're on the wrong side of the internet, buddy. Jake says, Curta. Actually, he says this on every video. This guy gets it. Are there other, perhaps non-mathematical adjacent machines or instruments which you haven't had the chance to talk about in a video? They're all kind of mathy, but I have some other doodads which I think are cool, but I don't know if they really fit my format. Check this out. This is a little guy, huh? Can you see that? It's a little guy. I got this thing too. This is a baseball balls and strikes counter. Each thing has a little clicker. The ball clicker counts up to 4 and then goes back to 0. The strikes and the outs go up to 3, and there's an innings one which goes up to 9. I kind of like that. I have a small collection of old staplers. Is that something? Why do you think the Curta is so much more popular among collectors now than other portable mechanical calculators? Now this is a question worthy of discussion.